broadcast. It's day 14 of April 2021. This is New Day Kenya, and we are covering the live event at the Supreme Court of the Republic of Kenya, where so far 3 candidates have appeared before the Judicial Service Commission in the search for the next Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. On Monday, Justice Juma Chitembwe, with 12 years of experience, appeared before the commission, where they highlighted issues in regards to anti-corruption cases, longevity of such cases in courts of law across the country, judicial philosophy, which is very important, judicial activism, and of course this was certainly one of the aspects that were introduced in the country's third arm of the government under the tenure of the first Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya, that is the first Chief under the current constitution, Willy Mutunga, and issues in regards to online hearing, digitization, and the cases in regards to backlog of cases, documentations in terms of proving cases beyond reasonable doubt, and also the relations with other arms of the government, and to be specific, the executive. However, the JSC also downplayed petitions that sought the recusal from the commission of the acting Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, who has taken over from the retired David Maraga, who left office on the 4th of January 2021 after his 4 years lapsed. And yesterday, on Tuesday, Professor Patricia Kamere Mbote appeared before the commission, where she highlighted on the importance of relations, or proper relations rather, between judges at the apex court in the country. And today is the turn of Judge Martha Koome, who served in courts across the country, including in Nairobi and in Kitale. She is the current judge. She is one of the current judges at the Court of Appeal in the country. Therefore, importance in regards to independence of the judiciary, the gains made under the 2010 Constitution promulgated on the 27th of August 2010, and how the current document gave birth to vast array of independent institutions that ought to be interdependent. And of course, you have to talk about the 1st of September 2017, when the Supreme Court nullified the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta in what in a majority judgment said the IEBC did not follow the electoral laws as required by the Constitution, and thus on the important element of it saying that irregularities and illegalities were committed by the IEBC, ordering the Wafula Chebukati-led commission to conduct a fresh election, not a fresh election rather, a rerun on the 26th of October 2017, where the opposition stayed out and President Uhuru Kenyatta was re-elected in 2017, 26th of October. And of course, it's an important element also in the measure, in the gauging of any democracy, and how important the third arm of the government does play. Therefore, we are going to be highlighting that with the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim, who is here with me in studio, and later we'll be getting to one of our other guests who will be with us shortly here. But before I do that, here's what's coming up on the front page of the Daily Nation, and it's in regards to the Raila and the talks in regards to Gideon Moi and President Uhuru Kenyatta's younger brother, Muhoho Kenyatta. A story highlighted on page 4 of the publication. This happened yesterday, and development follows a report of alliance between the former Prime Minister and the Deputy President William Ruto. The optics in regards to analysts say the meeting at the ODM leaders' residence in Karen sought to send out a message that the handshake between the President and the ODM party leader is still going strong, and to ward off the Deputy President William Ruto's camp. This story is highlighted on page 4 of the publications. And in what the paper terms as the Games of Thrones, the friendly visit, politicians' private talks raised the stakes in the alliance building. Reports suggested the 2022 succession politics featured in the mid-morning meeting at Mr. Odinga's Karen home, which excited allies, told the Nation, the paper, discussed the possibility of 3 of Kenya's most prominent political families going into next year's election as a team. The deepest rivals have often spoken about super alliance, which had appeared to take shape when President Uhuru Kenyatta brought together various party leaders backing the Building Bridges initiative, but whose march seemed to have been derailed lately due to the showdown between the ODM party and the One Kenya Alliance movement. And the picture of the ODM party leader Raila Odinga, the KANU chairperson and Baringo County Senator Gideon Moi, and businessman President Uhuru Kenyatta's brother, who visited him yesterday at his current home in Nairobi. Now, the other story is highlighted on the front page of the publication. Spare the month of Ramadan. Leaders tell President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Muslim clerics and faithful appeal to the president to allow them to say the Taraweeh prayers, the after dawn prayers in the mosques by extending the start of the curfew hours. And this is highlighted on page 6, since this is affected in the 5 counties that have been partially locked down because of surging cases of the pandemic, according to the president. And 3 patients die after failure of oxygen plant. The deaths occurred after a mechanical failure disrupted the normal supply of gas at Nakuru Level 5 Hospital. The story highlighted on page 10. And Nakuru is one of the counties affected by the latest measures the president did impose about 3 weeks ago in an attempt to curb the cases of the pandemic that are growing exponentially in the country. The search for the next CJ, will be talking about this yesterday. Professor Kameri Mbote, in the spirited fight to become the Chief Justice, appeared before the Judicial Service Commission to explain how her academic experience will be best utilized as Kenya's most powerful judge and how technology and employee motivation will be key in her tenure. Story on page 8. And there is a plan to immunize 26 million people in the country in the vaccination process that the government seeks to ramp up. The country had initially targeted to vaccinate 16 million vulnerable Kenyans by 2023. This story is on page 10 equally. And the revenues to counties is less by 40 billion Kenya shillings. The devolved units will be getting less by 40 billion, what was awarded in the last financial year by the National Treasury. And there's a story in regards to the SACCO that wants teachers to cough up 4 billion Kenya shillings through their giant Mwalimu SACCO. Teachers will need to pump in at least 4 billion Kenya shillings to enable the bank meet its statutory obligations and put it on course to getting strategic investor. The other decision will be to cut it off and sell it at a loss. However, selling it in the current form will see teachers take hit of 2.4 billion in investment, which will eat into their dividends. And the next story is on the search for the next CJ in the country, and this is the account of the academic lawyer, Professor Kameri Mbote, who was taken to task yesterday over the BBI role and the disputes with colleagues and students during her tenure as a lecturer. And for Judge William Ouko, justice as the final product, says Sakio Owino, the task force, he says, had the objectivity of recognizing the judiciary needed to change. And taking a look at the cartoon edition of the publication, it's what's highlighted on the front page. Our gamble is still on the handshake. The picture of the ODM party leader Raila Odinga, the Siaya County Senator and Senior Counsel James Orengo, who seems to be shaking firmly the shoulder of ODM leader Raila Odinga, who on the other end is holding the Suna East Member of Parliament Junet Mohammed. President Uhuru Kenyatta appears to be preparing up some dishes, and how he seems to be managing his table is very interesting. The cards on the back end of his trouser, and this means that he has all in control on the political chessboard. The DP William Ruto on the other end appears to be not in close proximity of having an effect on the political establishment in the country, and how he will make allowances, how he will make friends, how he will be able to reach out to what he termed about a week ago in a radio interview like-minded political candidates in the country, and the impact this will have. Therefore, we will be getting the account of my panel in regards to the developments in the country, and to be specific, the search for the next CJ of the Republic of Kenya in quest to succeed the departed and former CJ of the Republic of Kenya, David Maraga, who retired on the 4th of January 2021. And this, of course, started on Monday, where the first to appear before the commission was Justice Juma Chitembwe. With 12 years of experience, he highlighted, expounded more on anti-corruption cases, how he seeks to resolve that, the longevity of such cases in courts of law across the country. Judicial philosophy was also a very important note, and judicial activism in what they say, or likened him to the founder of that particular seat, the first CJ of the Republic of Kenya, William Mutunga. Online hearing, digitization, cases of backlog of cases across the country and courts across the country, and the documentation of these cases, which was very important. This is set to end on the 23rd of April 2021. Thereafter, the Judicial Service Commission will embark on the search for the replacement of the Supreme Court judge and also the Court of Appeal in the country. And the importance this will have is that it will determine a gauge or as a measure of Kenya's democratic credential. With me in the studio is Honorable Farah Maalim, who equally served as a Member of Parliament, former Deputy Speaker during the Grand Coalition government. Good morning, Mheshimiwa. Ramadan Kareem to you, and thank you for coming. Shortly we'll be getting to our other guest who is equally mic'd up on the set. And coming to you first, Honorable Farah Maalim, before we get to the political pages of the publication, it's very paramount, isn't it, that the country is seeing this happen in the search for the next CJ. I mean, who do you think will perfectly fit, and how charismatic that person should be in taking over from where David Maraga left?
I think there is a wide array of both academic, scholarly, technical experience in the courts, potential that's available there. And clearly, to be very honest too, it's a very tall order for one to try and say so-and-so is going to perform better than the other. This is all going to emerge as this very able commission, the Judicial Service Commission, is able to take all those into considerations and come up with the number of names or a few names that are outstanding in every sense of the word, because you have to look at it from jurisprudential, what do you call a perspective. You have to look at it from the kind of publications and the areas of expertise that each one of them has been involved in. And then you look at the experience also. You look also at precedents in the past, how they have conducted themselves in many ways. And each one of them has very powerful. I know Kameri Mbote because she was a dean at the University of Nairobi, at the law school there, and I was a student at one time. So she is undoubtedly a very rare breed in her own right. But then there's a lot of looking at this thing in a much all-rounded way. You look at the practice in courts also. She is an expert, a very brilliant expert on property law, land laws, and the thing that supersedes even the constitution of this country is the private property, and this country's history, this country's very fabric that informs its blood and sweats and everything else is land. Land is everything in this country. It's superior. Yes, it's superior to the Constitution. You see what I mean? And anything else for that matter. So she has that potential. I'm impressed. With that, she's going to bring in a whole set of areas that essentially will constitute some of the biggest issues, the fault lines in this country. Land redistribution is one thing. The respect for private property is another thing. The fact that Kenyans it's an agrarian country is one thing also that's there. So clearly, I think other than the late Okoth Ogendo, I can't see anybody else who has as much credentials in that aspect of law itself as she has. And then you have Oko on the other side as a hand, who has been there in the courts throughout. So he brings in also a wealth of experience, a lot of experience. Law is a trade in a sense. But you really have to combine both that experience as well as the scholarly, the academic aspect of this thing, and the very spirit and object of some of these things. So there is and many others. I haven't interacted with many of them, but of the few I've interacted with, and Kameri Mbote being one of them, I have a lot of regard for them. So
we talked. You have much highlighted on the individual capacities, the experience they can bring on board in taking over from David Maraga, and shortly we'll be discussing about
integrity is also one other big issue thing.
Values and what they talked about yesterday, despite Professor Patricia yesterday when she was questioned about her not practicing either at the bar level or at the bench level, and she said that she can still be able to work her way out in the
Willie Mutunga is so far one of the best, and he has not practiced that much in court. That's also another thing. He's been too much in activism. And
we'll talk about the importance of interdependence of institutions that were created by the 2010 Constitution, because the document gave birth to a vast array of independent institutions. And largely this is a gauge on how we democratically function as a country. Vincent Kimosop is also a governance and political commentator. Good morning. Your time is appreciated. You're welcome, sir. From the outlier view in terms of the three so far who have appeared before the JSC. Now it's the turn and it's ongoing of Judge Martha Koome, who served in Kitale, Nairobi. Yesterday, Professor Patricia Kameri Mbote, and the first to appear before the JSC was Justice Juma Chitembwe. It's more or less now on the individual aspects, their question unto how they have performed so far at the level they have reached, the wealth of experience they have in terms of how independent they were in their operationalization of the law. Then what are we looking out for? What kind of Chief Justice?
First of all, I think my message is of goodwill and in this period for the Muslims who are going through the period of Ramadan. I think that's one thing I had the two of you at the beginning. I want to say the following from a governance perspective, as to help us be able to locate who is the right person to be able to get to be the right CJ. And I will use historical and contextual facts. The summary of the tenure of Willie Mutunga can be summarized into one thing: the fight and the promotion of judicial integrity as an institution. What Maraga did is that if you summarize Maraga's tenure as the place of personal integrity as the judge and independence as a judge, that is what you would summarize the two. Therefore, what we need in the next CJ is somebody who is able to combine the place for institutional integrity and independence together with the place of personal and integrity and personal independence into taking the judiciary forward. Why is this important? Is that we are getting a CJ at the time when we have implemented the Constitution for a period of 10 years. We also are getting a CJ at the time whereby the country is discussing constitutional amendment. So the benefit of that tenure, the benefit of the impact of executive interference, we're in a place whereby 41 judges have not been appointed. We're in a place whereby there is also a discussion on enhanced accountability in the judiciary with the recommendation of establishment of a judicial ombudsman, telling you very clearly that accountability is being put on the table. So you require somebody, therefore, who is able to advance what you call promote the independence of the judiciary and interdependence of these institutions.
Between arms of government.
Somebody who will inspire the confidence of the judges at an individual level and also inspire the institution. And then thirdly, is somebody who is going to consolidate and deepen the gains that we've had in the last 10 years. Now, for me, why this is important is that we have seen there is a place whereby you can be a person of integrity as a person and independent, but it can also not take you to certain places when you are in a political context. There is also the place of judicial independence and integrity with the Mutunga space, that furthering those two to therefore deliver justice, to deliver a good institution, and to be a thought leader. That for me is the kind of person. So when I look at where we have so far, Chitembe, what Chitembe pointed out, I found him to be very pragmatic, very keen on really the spirit of justice, not the letter of justice. As in, you can see that there are times whereby he's saying this is what the letter said, but what exactly is the spirit we are advancing? Patricia Mbote brought out the following. She brought out the importance of what we call thought leadership, that you cannot question a profile. She brought out the issue of that it is actually possible to get practice and experience, not just from within and outside. You're looking at the institution and resourcing. Now, what we therefore require in moving forward is somebody who is able to deal, somebody who is able to lead, and somebody who is able, through personal example, advance this institution. So I think it will be too early. Let's, maybe you can invite us, me and the Honorable Speaker, after next week, when we have sifted through them, to be able to give you and tell you it is Ouko, it is Mbote, or it is Chitembo.
Okay, and 7 more to go who are set to appear from tomorrow before the Judicial Service Commission, including, of course, Justice William Ouko. But from Farah Maalim, Vincent has brought about the important aspect of independence. I mean, and one of the key elements that themed or was the bottom line of Justice Chitembwe when he appeared before the Commission on Monday was how he can inspire activism as was the case with Justice Willie Mutunga, who was the first CJ under the 2010 Constitution. I mean, what are we looking for then in this particular regard? Independence, sovereignty, I mean, jurisprudence of the court in this case, activism, resource, contact with the outside world, how you can marshal these resources, more or less because the devolution or the function of rather the judiciary is devolved. We have courts across the country. Then how specific are they going to be?
Is not devolved.
I mean, from the hypothetical perspective, I mean, we have courts across the country, isn't it?
No, that is decentralization in terms of, sorry, maybe I should not interfere. I was just clarifying.
Go ahead, please.
That the courts, the justice system is still a centralized system. What we have is decentralization in terms of enhanced access, in terms of distance, but the judiciary is still centrally...
it's true. It's true.
Okay, my point is that not under the functions that were devolved from the national government, but more or less it's doing across the country.
I see.
Okay, in terms of justice delivery.
Yes.
Then of all the items I've mentioned, Number Farah highlighted, how then are they going to be divergent? Where is the point of divergence in getting all those?
To begin with, it's important that one does understand that this is a bench of 9 judges. And quite often, if you have a lot of rot among a majority of the other judges, then there's a little that on certain critical decisions that the court has got to make that the Chief Justice can do. The one thing that is a thread that goes through the 2 Chief Justices we had right now, they're both people of extreme integrity, unassailable integrity. They were so decent and so straight that you couldn't associate with them anything that was underhand, because corruption is the biggest problem we have in the country. Now, you need to get somebody who has integrity way above board.
Unquestionable.
Unquestionable. Impeccable. And one person that, and anybody who has been practicing, in the High Court, in the Court of Appeal, in the lower courts also, it's a tall order. It's a tall order. There are very few and far apart who make it with that kind of credentials.
Who can make the threshold?
Who can make that threshold of integrity. That's why sometimes you need an external person to come in there. And that's why personally, I would at any given day prefer Patricia Kamere-Mbote, because she has that in a big way. She has, and of course, at some stages, with all that interactions we have had with her. By the way, don't be cheated that it's not only in courts that legal minds can be determined whether they're corrupt or they're not corrupt. Even in academia, there's a lot of that stuff that goes on there. Too many things happen in academia also. Nepotism, sex for grades, you know what I mean? There are a lot of this massive rot that one needs to go through and find out, within that academic circles itself, everything is not as decent and as clean, as impeccable as one would wish to have it. Okay. There are a lot of things that happen there.
I think
so it's not an area that essentially you would say, because they've never practiced in courts also, that you cannot tell the decent ones, people of integrity from determined. Yes, you could still determine that in a big way. So for me, you have to have it all rounded. You have to have it exactly as my brother, what's the name again? Vincent had said, and you've also intimated. You have to look at it, jurisprudence, you have to look at it. You see, law is a living document. The Constitution is a living document. And it's a living process. There are many things that come into focus when certain critical decisions have got to be made. It's looking at it from every perspective. So you really need to have somebody who is that all-rounded as much as possible. But at the same time, more than anything else, integrity is the centerpiece of that. Okay,
and how the JSC, Vincent, determines that is very key, isn't it? I mean,
you see, for me, when I look at the interviews, one of the reasons why I would easily I wanted first to set that context of the institutional and the individual, and then the context is then it gives us the corners under which we can have the conversation. One of the advantages of having, for example, Professor Patricia Mbote, in my view, listening to our Deputy Speaker, is that the gender card, one of the things that it is powerful. We need to inspire our daughters. Absolutely. That actually it is possible to rise to the highest level of leadership. Remember, she is a professor. She is a senior counsel. She is a family lady. She's a family lady. And also the advantage that she has is that she's been a dean. I think if I got it right, at Stanford. As in, you can see the inspirational dimension that when she goes to, because remember the CJ, he is also the political face of the institution. And at times we have to be careful whereby we only look at merit and competence and forget that overall delivery of the judiciary goes beyond merit. It goes beyond, there is also the personality and who you are, because the institution takes the leadership, takes the persona of the leadership. I remember, and I'm happy since we have the former speaker here, is that one of the impacts of a lack of independence in institutions is impacted in terms of overall delivery of other things. And I'll give an example at some point about an issue the country is currently grappling with, because the independence of parliament has been affected. When you look, for example, at a subject like public debt, you can see that one of the reasons why we are where we are is that a critical institution has not exercised its independence. Failed. I'm happy at least somebody of authority is able to use such a terminology. Has failed.
In terms of checks.
Yes, in terms of exercising its responsibility. And I remember during the Grand Coalition, because that is when
we
absolutely, you can be able to see the impact of independence of an institution over the prosecution of a matter. So what I'm trying to say, my brother, is that one thing we have to be, let us achieve a balance of the personal integrity, competence, and also the political leadership of what message do we want to send. Because it is the same judiciary that under the leadership of Maraga we are praising, that actually used its platform to be able to act on the issue of two-thirds. As we are speaking now, you have a petition that left from the CJ to the president dissolving parliament, because parliament did not do its part on two-thirds. So if the judiciary also wants to speak, and this is one of the things that I hope the JSC is watching, when they reflect, they should also look at the ability to have a networker, a resource mobilizer, because one of the gaps that you have in the judiciary at the moment is the issue of resources. So all those together needs to be brought into bear in terms of giving us the kind of person. So I was reinforcing what you pointed out that. Even, because Maraga came from the bench. As in, he was a judge of the Court of Appeal. Mutunga came from the academia. So it is okay in this situation to have somebody like Professor Mbote, because we will also be speaking to, let us for the first time have a female CJ, and it will not be that she is the CJ because she's female. It will be an added based on her all the other things, yes. Okay. I hope I have. You got it. You got it very well. Now, and let me just add. Something to that here.
Before we proceed.
The other bit is she is not a female activist. She is not what you call a feminist. These ones who keep on fighting. She's a family person who also believes very much in that interdependability of the two genders. That this is a family. This is not a contestation. This is not a contestation between two genders. You know, there are those women who literally grew up in that fight and all that. And she's a homemaker. You know, that's the biggest other issue is that she's a homemaker.
And the constitution.
And then when you look at her own, when you look at her own academic credentials, impeccable, as he puts it, Stanford University, top of the class here. Also when she was going for that. I mean, that a number of them who did so well that basically, and I think one of the very few women who have risen to the level she is right now, and I have a hell of a lot of regard for her. And I've interacted with her also as an individual, by the way.
The Supreme Court will now have. Let's now look at the impact, because when a qualification happens,
now she
it means CJ. You already have 3 female I'm saying it will be Justice Ndungu, the current DCJ, that is Justice Mwilo, and having Patricia Mbote also deepens at 2 levels. The third. That's what I'm saying. Yes, and remember, one of the things that I am really happy that you brought us in this conversation is that the 2/3 gender principle conversation is not about women. The principle is under Article 10(2) of the Constitution, a national value of inclusion, that all voices in this society have a space and a place in this platform. In fact, I'm very happy, Speaker, that we are all male panel in this conversation and promoting a principle. Because at times, there are people who are not able to break to the next level, that when you're having a gender conversation, and that just because you are not of the other gender, that you cannot articulate the issue, because it's about a principle. I hope I have.
I totally agree with the need for the inclusion in terms of genders in the country, but to legislate that, to constitutionalize that, is one thing I have never been comfortable with. Let me be very honest with you.
I see.
But then you can always, there's no country, none of the developed democracies in the country, in the world, including those who have a majority female representation everywhere, did constitutionalize these things or basically put it in their own laws, and as a result of that. I mean, Scandinavians, look at the Scandinavians.
So even Rwanda, which is 4%, did that.
Never did that.
I was in a class.
They are majority in Rwanda, but they don't constitutionalize that.
I'm saying I was in a class on governance, measuring governance, human rights, and democracy. And one thing that actually we did a case study, and one place that was a very good example was the city of Helsinki. That actually, actually, one of the things that is actually required is that it is not constitutionalizing the issue. It is raising a people who are conscious about a holistic view of society, that irrespective of whether you're male or female, you are able to advance the conversation and engage on the issues. When you constitutionalize it, what the challenge is, it's like when you are beginning a race for 100 meters and you cripple some of them. So, you know, already you have disempowered. So, but remember also, you are a politician. A constitution is a negotiated document. At times, it's a product of compromise. And the problem of compromise is purity is lost.
Now, we have talked about largely how integrity is key, how we need to source out for that person who will be the president of the judiciary, who will need to possess the political face besides being the judge, and of course in the implementation of the law. And let's now speak to other aspects, because it's important. We have the other arms of government. From here, the JSC is within the judiciary, it goes to the president, the head of the executive, it comes back to parliament. So at the end of the day, the 3 arms of government are involved, and we'll be coming later to longevity of anti-corruption cases, online hearing, clearing backlog of cases, documentation, and of course the importance of judicial philosophy. But on the importance of...
Sir, there's something I really want to say. I have wanted to say it in a platform. And I'm happy today.
You'll respond to my question too.
There's something that I feel that in the crafting of our constitution, there is, and I'm speaking now as a governance expert, there is a limitation about the composition of the Judicial Service Commission. Why do I have to say this? Its representative nature makes the Judicial Service Commission skewed in the lenses in which they look at issues. I think actually, let me count. You have the CJ.
The CJ, who is the
chair.
You
have a representative of the Supreme Court, the High Court, and the magistrates.
And judges.
And then you have 2 reps from Law Society out of 9. That gives you 7. That gives you 6 lawyers. They are all lawyers first before the opposition.
Before they come on board.
The challenge with such a commission is that the lenses in which they look at things is usually legally skewed. Yet in society, for you to deliver society, and even I'm happy, that's why I wanted to say this in his presence, is that the law is not the only thing you require for an effective and a balanced society. And the reason why those accountability issues have been raised, even why the ombuds issue is currently on the table, is because of the limitations of the Judicial Service Commission.
Okay.
And one of the days that I would want us to have a conversation is that how do you cure such governance? Because this is the same organ that hires judges, that disciplines judges, colleagues. And the problem with that is that you will even agree with me, Speaker.
It's a conflict of interest.
This you will see in the JSC, in the conversation yesterday, there are people who were taught by Mbote. There were people who were colleagues with Mbote. To discipline such a person at times, your lenses is affected. And it's in my conversation at some point when we are even amending the Constitution, I would love us to be able to address that so that we do not cure that by bringing another structure like the ombuds, where you put a square peg on a round hole. Because it is because of the imperfections of the Judicial Service. I hope I've communicated.
Now, to my question,
it's very pertinent because you can't be employing a Chief Justice today and tomorrow you appear before him as an advocate.
Or maybe share the same bench.
No. You appear before the same Chief Justice. You
can imagine
before the same judges that you employed, you recruited because you're a member of the JSC. At least I think one thing that gives me a lot of comfort is Macharia right now, who is the nominee. Machari? Njeru, who is basically the Law Society's member in that Judicial Service Commission, has stopped practicing law. You get my point, what you call court law, for the tenure of the period that he's there.
He'll be serving at the JSC.
He's serving at the JSC. But he's done it out of his own
principle.
It's not the law that's there.
And I really allow us, because this is fresh and it is new, and since you've given us, it allows us to put it on the table. And this is, and I'm sure that's why, and we are having this conversation at the time where a CJ is being recruited, where JSC is asking for submissions. I wanted to bring out those issues because the hammer that has been brought to the table in the name of the Judicial Ombuds, which is constitutional, is a journey towards curing that mischief. But in my view, it is also not a well thought out solution. So how do we, can you imagine we have invited us, we've come independently into this show. This is the first, we have met here.
This is the first
time.
The
ability to say things independently. If you interviewed us, to be able to come to this show and your performance in this show is dependent on how we will speak. What's going to happen? I will be measuring what I am saying because I will be delivering. I want you to succeed. Even the way, but so that is how we will cook this broth. And the advantage of the media is the ability to be the lens of society. Say, hey guys, how do we cure this issue? So in my view, one of the things that I would recommend, for example, if you were to cure this issue, is that, and I'm happy we have a politician here, I don't think we require those plethora of many institutions that we have in the name of independent commissions, like, for example, Parliamentary Service Commission, Public Service Commission, Police Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission. In my view, one commission in the name of a Public Service Commission can actually sort out all this. What you require is specialized agencies while you're recruiting certain skills. So that you are channeled into the public service irrespective of where you are.
The Parliamentary Service Commission today, and I would say these things without any fear of contradiction, is one that leaves a lot to be desired. Because you're putting in members of parliament to decide who is going to be employed. They're going to look for their relatives. They're going to look for their constituents. They're going to look for everything. And then when it comes to contracting and everything else, that's there.
And this is a budget of 49 billion.
It's a problem. It's a problem. So
4 times the judiciary.
Twice plus.
That's twice plus 15 billion, almost thrice.
Yeah, you can imagine.
Yes.
In terms of budget.
In terms of budget, I mean, what is the judiciary? 7.7 billion?
No, 17.5.
It's come up now. It's about 18.
Now.
And Parliament is what? 40-something? 50?
49.
Almost 49.
50, 49.
So that's almost thrice.
Yeah. With a quarter of the workforce, you know, or less than a quarter.
Actually, the employees
by far.
The employees, if you look at the employees, Parliament, and you look at the employees of Parliament, and you look at the employees of the judiciary, and you look at their budget, and you look at what they're supposed to be doing, you realize that from a governance perspective, our priorities.
Okay.
You don't have the face of Kenya right now in terms of parliamentary employment.
Okay.
Look, when you look at it, you don't have.
You mean in terms of the Parliamentary Service Commission?
In terms of the role that's being played by the Parliamentary Service Commission, they agree between themselves.
Okay.
They decide who help you recruit this guy, I'll help you recruit the other guy, and basically this turns out into, that's why people don't want to leave it.
Okay.
And it's important that they serve only for one term.
Okay.
But right now they're serving it for eternity, as long as that member of parliament can come back. And none of them would trade that for anything else for information. Even if you offer them other positions like chairs of committees and everything.
Okay, it's very important. It's very important.
So as he puts it,
next time, let's have a conversation. This is my request.
Okay.
On these issues of the independent institutions, their limitations, of what is it that we were seeking to cure that has given birth to more problems. For example, we wanted an independent parliamentary service commission to ensure that parliament exercises its independence. Yes. What has it given birth? Yes. One, corruption.
Yes.
Two, the issue of what? The tribalism, that now nepotism, even based on what your submission. So you wanted to cure one problem.
Okay.
Parliament through its committees right now to others.
And generally that is across culture, because also devolution has turned out to be a nepotic having a nepotic outlook.
You have to start from one place to cure progressive.
We were seeking independence of Parliament so that Parliament has got its own independence on the agenda, on the timetable, on the business it transacts, all those things. But what we have created right now is parliamentary despotism.
Okay. Now let me come to this important aspect, because I was on this, and Vincent, I posed that question earlier. Its importance and the significance of interdependence between independent institutions, the judiciary, the executive, and parliament.
Yes.
This is a process that largely involves the three arms of the government. Yes. Now at the JSC, at the judiciary level, but it will reach the executive desk, it will come back to parliament before the next CJ takes office. We know what happened with the 41 judges. One, of course, passed away. Now we have 40. There is this standoff between the judiciary and the executive. And Parliament, you said, apparently is not exercising its independence as required by law. Then what are we looking into? Do you foresee a turbulent time ahead, especially when the GSC presents the name of the next CJ to the president?
I don't, because of the people who have been nominated. Of the people who are on the list, none raises concerns that in jitteries. That's why you've realized that even our national television, when the JSC is interviewing, together with the program happening in the Senate and in the National Assembly, if BBI is being discussed, the media houses switch to look at BBI because of the political volatility that BBI presents. So I don't see a problem based on the current people who are going to be nominated to the JS, to serve as the Supreme Court, and also the judge of and also the CJ. There is an issue about when you overly become a legalistic society. Because one question that you have, the Constitution says that it's the JSC that submits to the president, and then the president does what? Nominates Parliament, and then the appointments happen. So what we have currently is a standoff because of clarity. Actually, what we have at the moment is a leadership issue. Let's call it.
At which level now?
Both at the executive level and at the judiciary level.
Okay.
I'll tell you this, and I'm happy a politician is here. When we are teaching governance, we normally help people to draw a grid of a quadrant of policy and process, and then below is power and politics. One of the challenges at times is that when many of us dwell in the policy and processes, whereby the law says this is what you do. But in the game of power and politics, it is a game of interest. It is a game of perception. It is a game of dealership. I can tell you for sure, one of the things that you require in the next CJ is somebody who is able to politically engage. Because I believe, if truly there are issues on the appointment of the 41 judges, one of the things that the person who leads the process would have been able to establish these issues ahead of time, because now it's a national embarrassment. You don't have judges, care for Kenyans are not getting services, and then you have an issue, you can imagine, a court ruling that has clearly outlined that the actions of the president are against the constitution. Just imagine, this is a court ruling that tomorrow morning when the president leaves office, anyone can activate. It's a court ruling. So those are things that should be avoided by having somebody who is able to read political signs of the time.
Okay. And was David Maraga a person who could read the political mood of the country?
I think I admire the integrity and the example and his independence. But one area that I wish Maraga would have done is in terms of cultivating political capital for the institution of the judiciary. Because politicians have an ego issue, have a perception issue. I can tell you, even when the president...
I think that was lost in big time after the nullification, after the nullification
but you
of
are
the general elections. I know, I get it.
A politician is able to cultivate a relationship. That is why today, look, for example, with all the bad things that politicians say each other,
yes.
Tell me,
yes.
Who took the petition to the Supreme Court? It was
the opposition.
ODM, right?
NASA.
Yes.
And let's say Raila Odinga.
Yes.
Today they're calling each other brother
yes.
with Uhuru Kenyatta. Yes. Telling you very well.
They've always called one another brother.
And that's how I'm saying. But that's how I'm saying. Yes. You are, if you, that's the day I understood
it's admirable in a sense. It's admirable in the sense that people can be friends and at the same time compete in
and
the
that's what I'm saying.
space.
As the head of the judiciary,
but when the two of them,
when
the two of them are so close and are able to relate to one another as brothers, even when they're competing with one another. But then the message that is sent to the people on the ground is different, and the people on the ground are slaughtering one another. Because that is where the problem arises.
Okay, now,
and people lose faith in politics.
Okay, now
Vincent was driving
yes.
was that when you are you have been a politician.
I've always been a politician for a long time.
Your ability, when you are, and this is the day I understood politics, when I understood this issue of politics and power. Power is about ability to get things done. Politics is about interest. So here I am, the head of the judiciary. What is my political interest? To ensure that more judges are appointed, more resources are given to the judiciary, and more so that judges are able to do their work. So the political dimension of the role of the CJ, in my view, is an area I feel the former CJ would have done more. Yes.
Oh no, Farah, then when Justice Chitembu appeared before the commission on Monday, he was the first. Yes. He was told, suppose now you're the CJ, assume, and the 40 judges have not been appointed by the president. What will be the outreach approach that you will have in ensuring that the 40 judges are brought on board?
What did he say?
Of course, the response was that the law should be followed.
No. And that's the problem.
The point is, okay, the law is there.
Where is the installation of the political aspect here? Because Vincent argues that the CJ is the political eye of the judiciary.
This is basically what's happening right now. I'll tell you. Even in countries where the political maturity, the first world countries that we say have been practicing democracy for some of them for hundreds of years now, and where they've had that elaborate a constitutional order in which the independence of the judiciary has always been there, and the Chief Justice and the rest, let's say like the American case, and many other countries, including the British, there is always, including the Indians also, there is always a relationship between those top offices. The Chief Justice must be somebody who can see the president and discuss with the president a lot of things. It doesn't have to be public. Where he also can be an advisor and tell him, look, this is not right, this is right.
Because the president is head of state?
And because so that you see, every institution, there are the three institutions, parliament, judiciary, and the executive. Everybody will try and push the wall. You know what I mean? Push the barrier. The judiciary would want to try and legislate from the bench. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of, in any country, in all countries, there are some lacunas in law itself. When there's a lacuna in the law, but the judiciary then will look at the presidents, will look at other jurisdictions, will look at a lot of things and say, this is the right thing. So they will all want to gain more power and push the boundary. Parliament would want also to push the boundary and take away a lot of authority and power from the judiciary. And the same also with the executive. The executive is here, and it can be threatened by both the judiciary and Parliament itself. So always in trying to push the boundaries, it's a normal thing. It's an unhealthy thing, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
But then there's always that interrelationship that avoids the possibility of a head-on collision.
Okay. So in this case, it was wise for the former CJ to reach out to the president and iron out the differences.
Of course.
What should have happened, and this is, you know what happens, when you understand, it's called that political consciousness. You see, like the discussion we are having here, assuming you just were asking a question, and the issue is yes, no. We will have a boring show here. But the ability to say no, it keeps, and even like, for example, when I was clarifying to you that this is, it enriches the conversation. And by the end of the day, people say that was a healthy conversation. Okay. The point I'm pointing out is that there are times whereby you require that drawing the boundary line. For example, I was very proud of the judiciary when they exercised their role to nullify the presidential election. I may not agree with the decision, but that boldness emboldens to show that actually we can actually do what? We can do our part. But at the same time, that was when it comes to matters of law. But in terms of dealing, engaging, and saying, Mr. President, this is what you required, because history shows where the executive and the judiciary has had a tiff, particularly when it is driven by the judiciary, it is the judiciary that suffers, even if they are in the right place. This is experience across the world. So why if you know what is going to be the outcome of a process, what do? You have to change strategy. And it is possible to have contact without contamination. It is possible to engage the executive without undermining the independence of the judiciary, because this issue and philosophy of independence does not mean isolation.
Okay, now another important aspect is that
the one thing that we all fail to take note of is the ability to divorce emotions from substance. And that ability itself, I think, was lost at the time when the judiciary itself was given that ruling on
the nullification.
On the nullification.
Yeah. The 1st of September 2000.
The 1st of September, and then the opening statement by the Chief Justice, which brought in religion and a few other things here and there. And
the greatness of a country.
The greatness of a country and all that. That was not that's not basically a legal ruling. You know what I mean? That is, you've gone into a little bit of politics in that. now that one then diminished the trust, the individual trust that the president and his friend, the deputy president, had in the judiciary at that time. And then, of course, what happened the next is when they took also that and said, Maraga,
we shall revisit.
We shall revisit. And then, of course, a number of things that has happened since
even
that look like is part of the revisiting happened. So you see, in both cases, there was a inability to separate the substance of the law itself from the emotions of the moment. You get my point?
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a mistake. In my opinion, you just give it dry. You get my point. I don't drink, and you don't drink also. But
you have asked the question. Okay, go ahead.
For those, I'm told you mix up some of this hard with water and other things. Don't just give it. Law is supposed to be given, and rulings are supposed to be given dry.
Okay.
Don't coat it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Don't do anything. Don't do any dressing. Don't dress it. Up. Just give it straight as the law says.
Okay.
And that's it. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You don't show any happiness that this is what's happened. You don't put in a lot of philosophical and emotional other languages into it, and that's it. So I think we missed that one. That bit was lost. I remember very well when Justice Madan was giving a ruling on Charles Njonjo way back. You're both young. And he told him, first Mount Kenya, you know what I mean? and you can thank your gods, you're a free man now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So instead of just saying that you're free because of A, B, C, D, F, G, H, then when you put in all those other things, you're flowery and you've got it.
Yeah.
Now, Madan was seen as Njonjo's man since then, you know, up until he died.
Okay. Now,
so that is where there's a bit of a mistake in the manner in which our nascent judiciary, our nascent political life, because we have only been a democracy and independent in this country for a very short period.
Multi-party democracy?
Multi-party democracy is about 30 years, slightly less than 30 years,
57
and less than 60 years for our independence itself. So there is need for us, as we keep on developing and growing those institutions, there's a need for us to also learn a lot.
Okay, Vincent, and you have highlighted on the ombudsman's aspect, and that's highlighted on the, or rather is contained in the BBI document.
Yes.
And we have seen what happened or transpired in the aftermath of denullification of the president's re-election in 2017.
Yes.
And besides that, the judiciary also experienced cash-strapped, was cash-strapped rather, 17 billion, thrice less what Parliament operates with.
I see.
And you have this ombudsman now coming on board. I mean, and we have, of course, genuine problems raised by Kenyans in regards to the conduct of judges and also corruption that's rife within the third arm of the government.
Yes.
Will the judiciary of significance in this case to arrest such a situation, or do you think it's part of the lengthened executive exogenous pressure on the judiciary?
I think because now let me reduce my political lenses, courtesy of the vaccination I'm getting by sitting proximate to a politician, and take on my technical lenses. Any mechanism to enhance accountability should not be rejected. As in, that should be the principle, that if this is going to strengthen and enhance accountability, it should be supported.
Do you think the Ombudsman's office will...
I'm building a case. You have gone ahead, you have jumped ahead of what I'm trying to build a case. So the problem currently is that the lenses in which the Ombuds office is seen, even having a public pronouncement by the judiciary, is that it has been seen as an affront on the independence of the judiciary, and a public statement has been taken. So politically, there is already bad blood that has been created. However, since it is coming from the legislative dimension and the constitutional amendment dimension, the judiciary will learn to live with it, if in the event it passes. And as you can see currently, BBI is about to be passed. The only section, in my view, that may require, that is actually making it to go to the referendum, includes that section, because the Ombuds touches on the independence of the judiciary, the protected part of the Constitution that requires us to go to a referendum if you're touching on them. So what should be done? Already, as we are talking, there is actually a provision administratively within the judiciary for an Ombuds office. So we did not even require a legislation to actually get an Ombuds office. What was required was administrative measures that the judiciary would have done in support with others, even through a legislation, amending the Judicial Service Act to do what? To enhance it. But because politically the case has been made, you know, one of the things that happens is that when a decree extra caditra has been issued from Rome, one of the things that happens is that it's going to be implemented. So we are on our march towards Rome. The judicial ombuds is going to come. I think the best thing is the judiciary itself, together with other actors or that work directly with the institution, should actually develop a framework that ensures that it keeps to its framework of accountability. Otherwise, it is a tool that can also be abused. Because the provision is that the ombuds can investigate judges. The ombudsman sits as a member of the Judicial Service Commission. The president appoints the who? Let's look at just composition. Just if you do your own mathematics. Here you have somebody as in the name of the ombuds who sits in the JSC, one person. And then second is that the president already has who? The Attorney General. The two members of the public who are those how many people? You already have four. What is the composition of the JSC? That is you're looking at 9. So you only require one person. You skew decision. So the point is, it can be used as abuse. It can also be used for accountability. It is now a plasticide. It depends on what is required. Now, history shows us that because of the need to protect the independence of the judiciary, because everybody can benefit from the judiciary, you take more the cautious approach of how do we ensure that more capital is invested in guarding it to be a tool of accountability and not a tool of political manipulation.
Okay, yeah, Honorable Fanamal, then I'm just curious about, suppose this comes to full implementation, you have the Office of the Ombudsman, it sits in the Judicial Service Commission, plus the Attorney General who does represent the President, 2 other members of the public appointed by the President. There are 4 out of 9. That's almost 50%.
Yeah.
And suppose this happens, I mean, how, and there is already bad blood between the executive and the judiciary. You see, where is the room for independence? Where is the room for the protection of judicial independence and the fears such that many Kenyans express as regards the Ombudsman's office?
You see, because of the security of tenure of such offices, it is assumed or presumed that whoever is going to come in that place is not going to have the loyalty of the appointing authority as the centerpiece of the manner in which is going to transact that. Hang on a minute. Now, you look at, for example, the American Supreme Court, and you see who are the appointing authorities. The president is basically the incumbent who's there that time. And look at the decisions that they do. I mean, all those guys, Justice Scalia, all these other guys who were there, disagreed with the core values of the president who appointed him, and still went and ruled in differently. So the presumption is that because this person can only appoint you once, after that he cannot get rid of you. He doesn't have to reappoint you again because you're only there for 1 term in the case of the Ombudsman. So basically it is, you do now what is good for the country. Now, if we can get that inculcated in our system here. Now, for example, I'll tell you, I personally see the Supreme Court as constituted right now as one of the most corrupt institutions. And I think there are many people who will believe that too. As constituted today, I still have people whom I have a lot of respect for. I have a lot of respect, hell of a lot of respect for Justice Maraga. I have a lot of respect for his deputy, Philomena. But again, when you look at the rulings that were done some times back, and the shady circumstances under which one judge had to leave the bench, you get my point. And look at the ruling of one of the governors when a petition had to be determined.
I see.
And here is all the information that shows this governor does not have the qualifications. And they still
that was the case of Wajir County.
Well, I'm not going to mention the name, but it's
the majority ruling. I mean, then is it not of concern because I was there, I was covering that, and in the majority judgment, the judges say, to be just specific, that the governor did not have a degree, but he did behave like someone who had a degree.
Now, where do you get that in law?
Let me ask you, are you a journalist? Let's just face it directly.
Yes.
Where did you go to school?
Mount Kenya University.
Mount Kenya. So you have a degree. What is
in
the title?
Journalism and Mass Communication.
It's called what?
Journalism and Mass Communication.
So title, Journalism and Mass Communication. What is the other thing that makes you giving you the qualification? You also accredited by the Media Council of Kenya, right? Of course, you have a badge that's press pass. So if I am presiding over, you have been a speaker, so you can please look at how we prosecute this matter. If an issue comes and the question is, are you qualified? What are your full names? So that I mention all of them.
Yes.
Yes, to be a journalist to preside over this program. The only answers will be either yes or no. And no, because the clear framework that outlines the qualification of a journalist is that you have gotten a degree from a university accredited by the Commission for the Higher Education. So is Mount Kenya accredited at that time? The answer would be yes. Did you attain the minimum graduates? And we will see.
Do you have the degree?
Have a degree? Yes, the degree. What is the other entity that also accredits journalists? The Media Council of Kenya. Then what is the other thing that's also required is that there is a code of conduct that is required of every journalist to do what? A code of conduct, even including of this institution. Then our determination is that based on your certificate, which has been commissioned, we have checked with the university, and they have given us the evidence to show that this is an authenticated document. Therefore, you are a qualified person to do what? To preside over this show. You know, the law, my brother, at times people will complicate things so much, yet it should be 2 + 2 is equal to 4.
What we are saying,
we will not say that you are behaving yourself in a manner likely to look like you are.
So you don't agree with that decision by the Supreme Court?
And that decision comes from the highest court.
And that is allowed in law.
Okay, yes. And that's despite the High Court and the Court of Appeal quashing the election of the same governor.
I'm saying, and that's now where accountability comes. That we respect the institution of the judiciary, we respect the Supreme Court, but we have a right to disagree openly and publicly with a decision they have.
Actually, ordinarily, if we had an ombudsman, that whole group of people, except the ones who put in a dissenting, opinion, would have been told to resign or face a tribunal.
Okay, thank you.
And the tribunal will go into those points of law.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Now, Honorable Farah Maalim and Vincent Kimosop, thank you so much for your time. We need to go on a break. When we come back, of course, we'll still be tackling this matter as we also cross over to the political pages of the publication. Joseph, can I have this up just briefly? And it's on the front page of the Daily Nation this morning, a meeting between the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, President Uhuru Kenyatta's brother, Mohoho Kenyatta, and the KANU chairperson and Baringo County Senator Gideon Moi, who yesterday met the ODM party leader, all as political alliances and coalitions are shaping up in the country. The first one, yes, there we go. And this is, if you can maybe pull that down.
Up.
And this is a picture on the front page of the Daily Nation. That is the Game of Thrones, the friendly visit by Gideon Moi and Mohoho Kenyatta to the ODM party leader. As analysts say, the meeting between the ODM leaders' residents sought to send a message that the handshake between the president and the ODM leader is still going strong and to ward off DP William Ruto's camp. That story is highlighted on page 4 of the publication. We are going to be discussing that after the break.
Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister.
Welcome back to the broadcast. Good afternoon. You're watching the program. This is New Day Kenya. The hashtag on Twitter is New Day KE. Still with me in studio on my immediate right is Vincent Kimosop, commentator on social political development. Thank you, your time is appreciated. And also with me is the former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Farah Maalim. And to just finish up on this before we go to the political pages of the publication, and Honorable Farah, in regards to what was queried by the Judicial Service Commission on Monday when Justice Juma Said Chitembwe appeared before the commission, was the longevity of corruption cases in the courts of law across the country. And we know as a country that we have a troubled history in terms of how we have prosecuted corruption, from the 1987 formation of the Kenya Anti-Corruption Authority to 10 years later, the appointment of Harun Mwau, how the Kenya Anti-Corruption Commission came on board, Lumumba censured by Parliament during a tenure, and also the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission now. I mean, how will the judiciary act as the perhaps, I mean, of course, all depends on what's presented before the courts of law. But how will they be the point not seen as the breakaway point within the criminal justice system for us to have successful prosecution?
You see, the prosecution has nothing to do with the judiciary. The prosecution comes under the Director of Public Prosecutions. It's basically part of the executive. And this is why you have somebody, and the judiciary is the arbiter in these things. There are three things that are involved, three critical things that are involved in this thing. The investigations, the ability to see by the counsels in the Director of Public Prosecutions Office that this case can see the light of the day and you can get a conviction. So you must have a sufficient investigations carried out that will enable those counsels at the DPP's office to weigh it and say, yes, we have a case here and we're going to bring this is going to succeed. There's a chance of success in that. And then the will and the integrity of the officers also in that directorate itself. So the police through the CID is involved. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is involved. And then it finally comes to the Directorate of Public Prosecution and an auditing right now. And then finally goes to court. Now, if these three do their job very well, the courts have no problem convicting these people and sending them to jail for as long as it takes. You get my point? Except when then it's been influenced in one way or the other.
Is that what the former CJ called, don't bring us hawkish cases, in the 2019 Anti-Corruption Summit, where he said that what's before us is what decides on how we rule?
It's substance. It's basically the evidence that's going to make the difference. And if you don't have the evidence and you're just doing this, you're rushing and imprisoning somebody over the weekend and putting that person in for a few days to catch up to, basically the public mood and then the country to say, yeah, this government is working very hard on corruption. Only later on, after 1 or 2 years, and many people have even forgotten the memory of that, then they're released. You said that's what happens also in Kenya always. I mean, how many very senior people who have been convicted of serious crimes in terms of corruption are now languishing in jail? There's hardly any. Do you know of anybody yourself?
Actually, our prisons are full of chicken
petty offenders.
So which is which defeats the cause of justice.
So the whole thing. I actually say that corruption is a national value in Kenya. It's a national value. I'm serious because what did he say? This is our old friend Lumumba, who also himself left, that position under certain and a bit of a shady circumstances because he was a little bit careless in accepting donations from people who were under investigation at that time for his foundation, which was a mistake. I mean, you don't make such mistakes. But what did he say? And it makes a lot of sense these days when he talks. He says, in Japan, when somebody is accused of corruption, they commit suicide because it's such a bad thing that you get ostracized by the society. In China, they kill you. The moment they convict you, they take you to the firing squad and they kill you. In America and Western Europe, they put you in prison for long.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why you see very many senior people who are languishing in jails for as long as it takes. I remember one guy who was called Milken, who was found in doing some insider trading way back. I don't know if he's still alive. Yeah. And he spent God knows how many years. And he was a very wealthy guy. Right now, what do you call this media guy, media mogul, who's, film mogul?
Yep. Yeah. I will get the name.
Murdoch?
Yes.
No. Murdoch is already in jail. The Ponzi guy, the Ponzi scheme guy. No. There's this guy who was convicted of sex. Weinstein or something like that.
Yeah.
The film producer who has been convicted of many sex crimes. He's in jail. I mean, the poor guy is going to spend the rest of his life in there from the look of things. So he says in Western Europe, they spend in jail, regardless of what your status in society is, forever. In Africa, you run for office, political office, and you
even become more prominent.
And you become a very prominent guy.
And by the way, that one of the things that would be good for you to interrogate is why is it that we place premium to wealth? Because I at the age of 31, speaker, I was the chairman of a state public institution. Almost the
I thought you were going to say I'm 31 now. I was going to.
I'm just saying, like at that time, I'm not far away, just a few years.
Yes.
And I remember because of pricing integrity. Remember when you talked about those issues of integrity?
Yes.
Because by lifting and profiling integrity, because we see it as a team, we will be people of integrity. Outside there today, I have people who will tell me you were inside there.
What did you make? What can you show us right now?
Societal problems.
Yes, that integrity is not celebrated.
Okay.
And at times it can be very expensive. And I would really want to understand. Because I can tell you, if I cannot, like in 2022, I have people who ask me, when are you running for public office? And I tell them, it's become so expensive to run for public office.
I can't afford it. That I can't afford it, you said?
That I cannot afford it. And the issue for me that I would want to understand is, where did you get this thing where it looks like it is because I noticed that both of you are Muslims. So let me use the terminology we use in church. The canonization of sinners, and we canonize those who are sinners, and then we demonize those who are saints. As to where this public value came to prominence, for me, it requires further interrogations. I want to say the following.
Okay.
If we are to be effective in the fight against corruption, we require 4 things. Number 1 is political will. And political will is not the decision of the president. Okay. Political will is the decision of everybody who is in position and power, authority, and decision making. From the teacher in school, responsible for the free secondary school money, a father in the house, a member of parliament with CDF all the way to the president. That is what is political will.
Okay.
Number two, you require what you call values and a culture change, a culture shift. Then number three, you require good policies and laws and institutions. And then finally, you require the commitment and the consistency. This is what the former Prime Minister of Singapore said. He says, when I became Prime Minister, I had two options before me. Number one is to grow my country to be among the rich and get to the Forbes magazine as a leader of a country moved from the third world to a rich world. Or the second option of steal from the people and get my family to be among the richest and get to the same Forbes list as the richest family. He said, I chose the former.
The first option.
Yeah, the first option.
Okay.
So one of the things that I'm happy we have a politician here is that it looks like most of our politicians are choosing the latter rather than the former. Because I remember the bishop, I have to say, allow me to say this, because we have, today I feel very free to say certain things here. There is a bishop who I come from Baringo. No, he's Kosgei, the one from the wall. He said something one time, I come from the Rift Valley, he says, it is better to be a weak person in a strong community than to be a strong person in a weak community.
Yes, yes.
That for me, it inspired me as a young man. When more people surround me who are stronger, it is far much better than when I am the strong man in a weak community.
Okay. Now, that pointed out, it was Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, and whose anti-corruption record is very stunningly clear. And Honorable Farah Maalim and Vincent Kimosop, we now flip attention to the political pages of the publication. And Joseph, that is on the front page of the Daily Nation. It's the picture of the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga sandwiched between Uhuru Kenyatta's brother Mohoho and the Baringo County Senator, Kanu Chairperson Gideon Moi. And the paper says the friendly visit, politicians' private talks raised the stakes in alliance building. Reports suggested 2022 succession politics featured in the mid-morning meeting yesterday at Mr. Odinga's current residence, which excited allies, told the paper, discussed the possibility of three of Kenya's most prominent political families going into next year's elections as a team. The Deputy President William Ruto's rivals have often spoken about super alliance, which had appeared to take shape when President Kenyatta brought together the various party leaders backing the Building Bridges initiative, but whose march seemed to have been derailed by the cessation of movement and the imposed measures to contain the coronavirus pandemic. And coming to you, Honorable Farah Maalim, it seems away from the One Kenya Alliance to the NASA coalition that is now experiencing marriage troubles, to the ruling Jubilee Party's friction, that the ODM party leader Raila Odinga is the Copernican constant here within the political establishment. I mean, how are we likely going to see all this shape up towards the 2022 election?
Well, these things will be with us until we get to the 2020 elections. You know, there's a saying in my language that, you know, we're a polygamous society. So this man was married to 4 wives, and the wives keep on fighting among themselves for his attention. So he said, listen, you people have given me sufficient troubles. I want you all to face the wall. I'm going to touch the one I love most. And I don't want her to share that information with anybody, and nobody should question it. The rest of you just go back, fully aware that you're not the one I love most. And then the women, man, you don't talk about it. The day you talk about it, you lose that favor. So the women looked at the wall, and then he came and touched all 4 of them. You get my point? He patted all the 4 of them on the back.
I like this.
So every wife went
home satisfied.
Fully satisfied. She can't talk about it because she'll lose that favor. So the man had peace throughout, you know what I mean?
So that's the case of the president.
That's the case of the president, you know what I mean? The president, and I think that's a very clever thing. He's
I like
an extremely shrewd and brilliant guy, you know what I mean? He wants the peace in this country, and he cares about them all. But the final product is something that will evolve between now and then.
I see.
You see what I mean? So, mangalia yote nyuma, basi, wewe endelea vizuri, Raila, this is your team. Hao wengine pia, why should we always be the ones, the only ones who are ruling from 2 communities? You know what I mean? That gives another message to the other side that the president is in favor of the One Kenya Alliance, you know? So we are all running around, and I mean that One Kenya Alliance, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
I'm part of that. Part of that. So we'll support him. We'll support him all the way. You know what I mean? Until we get to it, and the final product will be known towards the end.
Okay. Now one of the members of the One Kenya Alliance, Gideon Moi, yesterday met the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who in the other quarter you belong to, is seen as a One Kenya
Alliance guy. Yeah.
Not per se, but for failing to withstand or stand by the agreement signed in 2017 to support one of the other principles. So how does that balance the equation? Gideon with Odinga, and then Odinga was with Wetangula, Mudavadi, and Moses Wetangula in 2017. How does it balance out?
This presupposes that we know the agenda they discussed.
We don't know the agenda they discussed.
Of course we don't know the agenda.
And it's also fair to presume that we are saying we are the team that will be proceeding on. You know, we've been patted on the back by because when you see the brother of the president, then that clearly is a clear message. But then again, Gideon will also be in the other team. I think sometimes next week they'll be having a function together. I don't know, week after. And we'll be there. So this goes on. This goes on. Let me be honest with you. You remember when Moi was our president here, and he knew he was coming to the end of the term in 2002, and he had a number of
possible successes.
Possible successes. The late Bunaya Godana was one of them, actually the front runner. Front runner. Kalonzo was another one, front runner. Saitoti was there. Odinga was there. Musalia Mudavadi was there. I mean, they were all there. They were all there. President Mustafa had a chit chat with them and told them, "We were in the layers, sasa." You know what I mean?
And he ended up picking
Uhuru Kenyatta, and nobody had ever imagined Uhuru Kenyatta. You know what I mean? He ended up picking. Of course, at the end of the day, Uhuru also lost. But you know, that was neither here nor there.
But Moi lived to see his project.
Moi lived to see Uhuru again ascend to power. And actually passed on in his second term.
And he presided over his standoff.
Yes.
Was in what more? As in
as the president. Moi died when Uhuru was the president of the Republic of Kenya. His son.
The person he politically nominated. Is the person who gave him a send-off. And you could see clearly that it was not only a state function, there was a personal touch,
family-like touch
to the process. And one of the things that I credit the former President Moi, that I give courtesy of what you pointed out, is that he left a strong political party in terms of KANU. That all these
which is the current Jubilees, actually, for all intents and purposes, KANU.
I see.
No. You see, the current Jubilee is for all intents and purposes KANU. The current One Kenya is, except me, is for all intents and purposes another KANU. You get my point.
I was talking about
the Tanga you see, by the way, by and large, is also the old KANU. In a sense, although the difference with Tanga is that William Ruto tried to distance himself from Moi.
You can't.
Which was seen as a betrayal, seen as a serious betrayal.
We'll come to the.
You don't distance yourself from the very man who was responsible for your political life.
We have a cartoon to analyze later in regards to that. The Jubilee Party political plan, the arithmetic they had in 2016. But finish up on your point, please.
What I wanted to point out was that when you look at where we are at in terms of these alliances and where we are coming from, every time you move towards a succession. And you know, yesterday I was writing a press statement for an institution where I serve as a secretary, and part of the things that I remember putting there is that the elections is actually 16 months away. So if you look back, 16, that is the window that any team that is meant to prepare to succeed the president is actually meant to prepare. If you go back all the way to 76, there was the change there, Constitution
Stop Moi movement.
It was, what was it? It was nothing.
Stop Moi movement.
It was about, we cannot allow this thing to go. But the camouflage and the public packaging was Stop Moi movement. 80, 90, then you had the 98, 92, that period. But the real time where you see succession, high voltage succession politics, 97, after Moi's second term. That is where you had the merger, that is where you had KANU,
NDP,
you know,
KANU
all
merger.
that.
Raila met SecGen.
if I'm talking about both internally, you would see changes in Kano, and also externally. Kibaki, the three where you had Kibaki and Malwa together with Ngilu.
Yeah.
It was all about, hey, after Moi, who?
The breakfast,
then,
the breakfast.
Yeah. Then come 2002. No, both 2007 and 2013. Because 2007, there was a picture that had been painted, courtesy of the referendum of 2005, that it's actually possible to remove Kibaki. Because they won in the referendum, and they felt, we can actually get this guy out of town. That was also the time.
Which actually we did.
No,
hold on.
I'm on the chair. Allow,
yes.
please protect
finish
me.
up, please.
Then in 2013, now what happened in 2013? The whole issue about ICC, the prayer rallies, and all that was all about succession. Now here you have a situation whereby you have a succession where the person who is in power seems to be interested to be part of the conversation. Because the whole BBI discussion is all about succession.
And that is the case of President Kenyatta now.
The thing that has stalled the succession conversation is this external exogenous factor called coronavirus. I tell you, my brother, if it wasn't for BBI, if it wasn't for coronavirus, today the number, even this show we would be having, would be a political show. People positioning, because you know it is what the public are requiring. So even this positioning, that's why such pictures and all that are being seen from the political lenses. Now, interestingly, my brother, the organizing question for 2013 was the ICC.
The shared indictments.
The organizing question. The organizing question for 2017 was the electoral process. And that's why we even went all the way to the Supreme Court. The organizing question for 2022 is yet to be well defined. And once the organizing question comes out clearly, then you will be able to paint clearly who is going to be president. That's why my brother is telling us they will be with us, because currently the coast is not clear.
Okay, maybe that is the part at the back.
Yeah, the organizing question.
That led to the satisfaction, maybe he pointed out in the metaphor that he did mention earlier. But Honorable Farah Maalim, speaking to this aspect, the president has a lot of options. He more or less seems to be having a bird's eye view of the political chessboard. On one end, it's the Deputy President, William Ruto, who he doesn't want to lose at any given cost now. On one end, he has the former Prime Minister, Raila Odinga. Center between the two of them is the One Kenya Alliance you do belong to. Why does he seem to be having all on one board, all his political rivals in 2017 on the political chessboard? What's the intent of the president?
Well, he, as he puts it, he wants to not to be a spectator in the succession battle. Kibaki was, to a large extent, a spectator in the one of, although the deep state was pretty much allied to our current president, but Kibaki was there. I don't think he intends to do that now. He wants to be at the center of it, the same way Moi wanted to be at the center of it. And he's very, 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 by the way, extremely sharp, extremely sharp. I was part of a team that saw him yesterday. And you see him and you talk to him and he remembers very fine details that you cannot even remember yourself, or the last meeting the two of you had, or the last time when you talked. So he's a very sharp guy, and he's a serious strategist. But when he walks around and moves around, the way he flips his hands and greets the people and laughs, he looks like a happy-go-lucky guy. No, he's a serious strategist, and he definitely has a strategy in place. We will get to see it, and everybody will go along with it as it is right now because of the manner in which he has managed it. You see, to have all these different teams to fully support you all along the way, and you hop up with these ones and hop up with the other ones and hop up with the others, and essentially nobody sees anything, any mischief in that. Is in itself a very powerful gift of that political acumen. But we will see it. As he puts it, we still have a long way to go. We have 16 months to go to the next election.
1 year and 4 months.
A lot
1 year and 4
change.
months. A lot can change in between now and then. And the final product, nobody knows it.
If BBI passes, for example.
Yeah, BBI will pass, undoubtedly. BBI will pass.
With it passing,
yes.
What is going to happen is that because our politics are tribally prosecuted, there is no. We should not be pretenders. Let's call it as it is. So you have 5 positions at the national level. That is the president, the deputy president. Now, those will still be influential positions because they are secured constitutionally. You go and vote for them. Then you will have the prime minister and then two deputies. Based on our ethnic, our population data, 70 to 75% of the population come from 5 communities. So what is going to happen is that formations now will be formations having 5 communities on one side in those positions of president, deputy, prime minister, and the two deputies. And since I'm not in politics, I can say this. You notice that in the position of the running mates to the governor, they have made it compulsory under BBI to be of opposite gender. But they have not brought the gender conversation to the 5. Because traditionally, the communities in the 5 are headed by men. So meaning that the One Kenya movement will now broaden to 5. So what is going likely to happen is that you already have Kalonzo, you have Gideon Moi, you have Musalia. If Musalia is the first in the pack ahead of Wetangula, Wetangula has to go for a position, maybe National Assembly, Speaker of the Senate. Then they will get 2 other communities. Mount Kenya and
Rift Valley.
And already Rift Valley is taken care of by Gideon Moi. They will get somebody from Lakeside. So that is the One Kenya side. Now, the other thing is also going to happen is that the same to be the angling around. So you have likely to have 3 formations so far. The formation around the One Kenya, a formation around Raila Odinga, and also a formation around William Ruto. Now, this might get to the elections so that in the first round, no one gets 50+1.
So meaning we're going to a rerun.
That since you already have the positions guaranteed, I'm now building scenarios, and because we do this for business, is that the 2022 elections have 2 options. The first run being an outcome where there is no clear winner. Why? Because there seems to be a consensus in the Mount Kenya region that they will not produce a president. If you listen to the positioning and the discussion, they are asking what is the best offer any of the side is giving. And remember, their vote is their largest. So it means if they don't have a person in the presidential running, their level of turnout and the galvanizing around the mountain is going to go down. So it will impact on turnout, and therefore there is high likelihood that in the first round, this is free consultancy, Honorable Speaker. That in the first round, there is unlikely going to win.
I hold a different.
No problem. We'll get your case scenario.
Yes.
No problem.
So that for me is what I see in 2022, round 1. Then in the second round, because the presidential election provides for runoff, is that's when now people sit down. Remember at that time, Honorable Farah will already be elected if he's a member of parliament. The discussion will change because you are now talking to people who are already seated in parliament who are saying, hey, for us to be mobilized, what are you promising us? It's very easy to win an election when you're all going to get votes when no one has already gotten a position. When the members of parliament and senate will have already been elected, what happens is that the level of motivation for them to galvanize and look for votes is dependent on what pie are you giving them. Now here is positions of prime minister, deputy, together with cabinet ministers, ambassadors. That is the next level of negotiation.
Okay, that's what you talked about earlier as interest now coming in.
Yes,
and will very well define the outcome of the rerun possibly.
You see, let me tell you.
What's your thinking?
Here there are 3 scenarios. Yes. I mean, there are three, as he puts it very well. There's the William Ruto, William Samoei Ruto, WSR, and then there's the ODM, Odinga, and then there's the One Kenya. And then there's a mountain region.
That is the president's backyard.
President's backyard. A clean, close to 30. Is it 30%?
They are
28.
You're looking at
28% of the.
They are 6 million, 6 over 40. Yeah, close to 25% of the vote.
A little bit more than that. Yeah. And that is game changer. Tips the balance straight away. So whichever side that Uhuru is going to give a pat on the back, and tell them at the last minute, this is the one we'll go with. There are two possibilities. There are two possibilities. The three of them, ODM, One Kenya, and Mount Kenya, by and large, the political class and the leadership of them are united in one way: keep WSR out, keep Ruto out.
That's their
that is the common. That's the thread that goes through yes. the three of them.
Yeah. So
to that extent, I think you could easily write off William Ruto as a serious contender for these things. Now,
that's despite all the inroads he made.
Despite all the inroads he made,
they can be reversed.
Okay. They'll be reversed in the shortest possible time. Don't be cheated. Mountain will for you and the following evening.
No comment.
No comments. Yeah. And then there's these other three. Wherever Mountain goes, we'll have the other two. That's One Kenya and ODM. Wherever Mountain goes is a sure winner.
Okay.
On the first round. On the first round, not even the second.
So
round.
the tilting factor is the.
It's Mountain. Mountain will not produce a president, but it will produce a president.
Okay. So in your scenario, in both your scenarios,
it will not produce a president.
In both your scenarios, just hold on. In both your scenarios, Odinga will go alone, as is the case with the DP.
Actually, the message that I hear from an insider here is the narrative is already shaping. Keep Ruto out.
Out, yes.
Meaning that there is very high likelihood for the One Kenya and the Odinga formation to easily work together.
To come together.
To come together.
Together, yes.
Then, after that formation, the person to the people to suit is the mountain.
Mountain region.
So that is already the formation.
These two will come together.
So the mountain is saying it is the person who gives us the best deal on the table. Already, based on keep Ruto out, the One Kenya wing, together with the Odinga wing, have an LCM. What is it?
Lowest common
denominator. It's the least common denominator of keep Ruto out.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, that keep Ruto out is also going to activate and energize the Ruto formation. That's what their narrative, their hustler narrative, that now you will have heard very clearly.
Let me just finish.
They are doing everything to keep us out.
Let me just finish.
Okay.
Now there's this possibility that people are talking of. One, the One Kenya and Ruto can never come together. I can also tell you, without any fear of contradiction, and you will see it in time, possibility of the Mountain and William Ruto coming together is also the most far-fetched. Because he's a brave guy, he's a smart guy, he has any capacity, he's bitter. If the ODM and One Kenya can come together, then there's a remote possibility that ODM and William Ruto will come together. A very remote possibility.
Please clarify that. You are saying that if One Kenya and ODM come together and then if Ruto, it's not clear what you're saying.
What I'm trying to say is that, look, the possibility that the Mountain is going to craft an alliance between ODM and One Kenya is there.
Yeah.
And the president is going to work on that and bring them together. And literally, as you put it, do what you call the chess game and put them in different places.
Okay.
Now, in the unlikely event, in the very unlikely event that ODM bolts and decides, because when Ruto gets to know that he's not going to, he's no chance, he will be willing to offer anything, including telling Raila as supportive for the presidency.
One term. That kind of talk.
One term.
But you can deputize him constitutionally.
No, but Prime Minister already, he has told us that.
Just a moment. And say, okay, I'll support you. In the event that these two come together, not a single person from the Mountain region is going to support that alliance. Because people who want Raila want him because they're running away from Ruto. And people who want Ruto want him because they're running away from Raila.
I see.
So if the two quantities or the two phenomena that bulk of the country is running away from, they run to this because they're running away from this, and they run. If those two come together, you can rest assured everybody will run away, or most of the people are going to run away.
Okay, so in this case...
So that possibility, in that unlikely event in which Ruto and Raila are going to be in the same basket, then whatever, the One Kenya or the Mountain, whatever crafted thing, is going to have in excess of 70% of what do you call the vote, or 60-something%. You can rest assured, about 2/3.
Okay.
So in every sense, the way you look at it right now, Uhuru is going to be in charge of the succession in a manner that nobody has done before.
So as is the case with his, perhaps the
and don't be
President
cheated.
Daniel Moi, who handpicked him.
He's better placed than Moi in 2000.
He's better placed, by far better placed than Moi in 2000.
Based on experience, based on the constitutional framework.
Based on the numbers, on the sheer numbers.
Not only the numbers, but also resources.
No, even more than the resources. You see, last time, it was against Kibaki. Kibaki was from the Mountain
Central,
region. If NAC had settled on anybody else other than Kibaki, NAC, if they had settled on Kijana Wamalwa or settled on Raila Odinga, anybody else, you think all those votes that Kibaki got, he was going to get it? No. They would have gone for Uhuru. The entire mountain region would have gone for Uhuru that time.
And actually the indication was clear because Njenga Karume moved out.
Absolutely.
You could see the formation. And the statement also by the late Michuki, that when the discussion was...
we just wanted to get out Moi.
It was about when are we amending the constitution.
And he said we just wanted to get out Moi.
We already had our objective has been met.
Okay. Now, going forward then, and one final question as we wrap things up here, because in 3 minutes we need to be ending the show, starting with you, Honorable Farah Maalim.
Yes.
30 years since multi-party democracy.
Yes.
We still are some distance away, some proximity away from ideologies and politics of decency and civility. Yeah. Are we likely to see that?
What do you mean? What do you mean when you say decency and civility?
What I mean in this case...
Give me examples.
Okay, examples in this case, breakup of coalitions and the shortcomings in terms of implementation of pledges and the promises made in every electoral cycle. Yeah. And in this case, what we see as currently happening in the political formations and the shake-up. Ideology seems not to be underpinning our political parties in the country.
Ideology has never underpinned our political discourse in this country, anytime. It's always been tribal. It's always been...
In democracy, it ought to underpin, isn't it?
Well, it's supposed to underpin, but we are so divided. We're so divided when it comes to
but where is the ideology across the world?
In the contestation, that a party means nothing but just what do you call a vehicle to access power. That's all. That's why everybody look at Uhuru. He was in Kanu, and then he was in PNU. Am I right? No. He was in Kanu, and then he was in TNA. He joined TNA, and then he is now in Jubilee.
Party.
Yes, Jubilee. That's a 3. Look at Raila. He was in Kanu. He was in
Ford Kenya NDP.
No. He was in Ford, original Ford. In Kanu, original Ford. Because his father is one of the founding fathers.
Went to Ford Kenya.
And then went to Ford Kenya. Then went to NDP.
Kanu.
Then went to back to Kanu again.
And then ODM.
And then LDP. Went to LDP.
Then
went to ODM.
6 parties.
And you never know what is going to be the name of the vehicle he's going to use come the next election if they decide to run. So in a sense, political parties do not mean anything in this country, in the political contestation of this country. What matters is basically ethnicity and the profile of individuals.
So at some point, do you foresee...
And the numbers you control.
In the foreseeable future, do you see the realization of that?
Well, I don't see it in this foreseeable future. I can assure you it's going to take a long time. We lost that opportunity in 1992. We had the closest to party ideologies when the manifestos were very well thought out and a lot of things. But then we had the original Ford.
Okay.
And when Kibaki, Matiba left the original Ford and created Ford Asili, then that was the end of
I think, Honorable Farah, I am an optimist. I will not dismiss the place that whereas we may not be at the ideological level, because ideology is a principle set that if anyone looks at it from any part of the world, this is what you are able to arrive at the same conclusion. But the truth of the matter is that issues are emerging to be part of the conversation.
Okay.
If I reduce, you know, when you do mathematics and you do what is called a deflating factor of ethnicity, you will realize that you are almost able to see, for example, the economic philosophy that informs every administration. Like you can see clearly the Jubilee administration, very strong private sector, you know, the facilitatory business line. If you listen to ODM, you hear an issue of equity,
social
an issue
democracy.
as in you can feel that when you move ahead of the tribal, you're able to see a distinguishing factor in terms of what informs their approaches. Now, the reason why we are not able to hear those voices is because the loud voice that ethnicity is given. Listen even to the analysis we've done. Ruta out, you know, you can see, and the next thing is tribal formation. But if we move now to the secondary part after the post this, you're able to say now William Ruto, now Raila Odinga, where when you get into office, you are able to unpack the issues. Why I'm saying this is because there are other things that Kenya needs to engage in that we are not able to get to those things regional Africa level because of the big weight that we are carrying because of our tribalism.
Okay, thank you so much. Because of time, we have to end. And what a discussion. Honorable Farah Maalim, the former Deputy Speaker, former MP. Thank you. Your time is appreciated. Vincent Kimosop, Governor and political commentator. Your time is appreciated. And thank you to you, too, for watching the broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow night on the Primetime News.